Well, Hamas has often used violence to advance its cause. Just ahead, rare insight into the minds of those willing to die for that cause. We'll talk with a French filmmaker who went inside Israeli prisons to profile suicide killers. You're watching CNN. French-Jewish filmmaker Pierre Rehov interviewed would-be suicide bombers inside Israeli jails, each time encountering what he calls the Palestinian martyrdom philosophy, as he found it equally present in female prisoners he recently spoke to. Mary Snow has more.
What looks like carefree play is actually the confines of a Gaza prison. The French documentarian who filmed this also holds an Israeli passport. He had to get permission from both the Israeli government and the Islamic group Hamas to gain access to alleged extremists being held in prison. Our aim is that anybody who fights Islam is an enemy of Islam, she says, and therefore it is only right to kill him. The documentary Suicide Killers shows how women could be just as committed as men. I wanted to die as a martyr, she says. Pierre Rehov, who made the documentary, says this woman is named Kohira, a 29-year-old mother of 4. She was charged with leading a suicide bomber to an attack in Jerusalem in 2002 that killed 3 people and injured dozens of others.
When you looked at her in the eye, did you feel, I'm staring at hate?
Yes. In her case, yes. It was, among all of the people, she was the only one which was very scary to me.
Rehov found these women are willing to die for their cause, some in an apparent effort to prove that they can be equal to men, others to hope for the afterlife. This woman says, as you know, God has announced that he placed 72 virgins in paradise, and I would be the prettiest of them all. A father who says his 2 sons died as martyrs explained their view of what happens when men die as suicide bombers. He says they know marriage in paradise is better than on earth. Allah has promised them 72 virgins who will be waiting for them. The filmmaker found these beliefs of eternal beauty or rewards drive extremists. After his year-long project, he thinks their goal is to destroy modern life for fear it may prove their beliefs wrong. And he says he walked away with little hope.
I had the feeling that I was like their prisoner in some way, because they were catching me to tell me what they thought and they wanted to convince me. And it brought me to a very deep level of despair.
Mary Snow, CNN, New York.
And filmmaker Pierre Rehov joins us now for some discussion on this. Pierre, thanks a lot for being here. It's incredible, really, that you got access to these women, and I'm wondering what struck you most about them.
First of all, you know, they are just human beings like anybody else, and some of them were very sympathetic and very naive. I would say that this level of naivety is the thing which was the most extraordinary for me, because I was talking to, you know, in a way, little girls who had kind of dreams, but the dreams were brought to them by a civilization which doesn't accept any kind of modernity. So basically, if you hear the one who says, I'm going to be one of the most beautiful of the 72 virgins, for her, this is a fairy tale. And the only difference between a little girl in the Occidental world and her is that she believes that the only way for her to succeed becoming the hero of this fairy tale is to go out on the street and blow herself up and kill other people doing that.
But, you know, did you ever wonder, you know, why hasn't she got that figured out like many others? Or did you feel more sympathetic toward them?
I feel a lot of sympathy for them. That's one thing for sure. Now, why don't they come back from this belief? I believe, you know, when somebody has been brainwashed since he's been a kid, and which is the case for most of the people in the Palestinian territories, it's very difficult to come back on their beliefs, which is basically their ethos. This is what they are. Believing in the afterlife is what makes them live on the daily basis. You know, they don't care so much for the actual life. I was thinking to start with that they were the result of a despair, social situation. It's not the case at all. They just want to die because they hate present life. And they believe in the afterlife, everything which is right now forbidden to them especially including sex, will be authorized in the afterlife. This is the source of the trauma. It's right there.
Interesting. I understand that most of the people you interviewed, male and female, were from Hamas. I'm wondering what you learned about the militant group.
Well, I've been... No, first of all, I've been with Hamas people for quite a long time among my other documentaries, so there's nothing new I had to learn from these people in jail. The Hamas refuses the existence of the State of Israel, hates the rest of the world. It's a very fundamental organization. It's a religious organization which was smart enough to find ways to convince everybody around them to vote for them at the end, but by using social means. And the main goal to the Hamas is, to spread Islam around the world, starting with Israel, that they just want to destroy. So whatever they will say about Israel in the future will just be propaganda and a way to keep going on what they are doing now.
And I mean, did you explore in the film, or did you wonder just even yourself as you went through this about the role of the State of Israel and what some would say is the oppression by Israel and the sense of hopelessness? Does it bear any responsibility in forming this mindset, do you think?
There is always a responsibility from everybody. You cannot say the world is black and white. But now if you want to go read to the source of that, you have to listen to the Palestinians themselves. When they talk about occupation, they don't talk about Gaza or the West Bank. They talk about Tel Aviv. So as long as they will believe that one day they can get rid of the existence of Israel, Israel is in a defensive position, and I wouldn't say that Israel is doing everything right all the time, but these poor fellows that I met in prison are not the result of Israel oppression. They are only the result of a brainwashing.
It's such a serious subject, and you at times sound very, very pessimistic about it as well. I wonder, as a filmmaker, I mean, how do you take this kind of a subject, this kind of content, and make it into a great film, a great documentary, or a great film?
First of all, it's fascinating. I started to make a film about the result of the terror on the civilians, and each one of them remembered, each one of the victims of terror attacks that I started interviewing remembered the very second where the terrorist blew himself up. So step by step, I became much more interested in the psychopathology of the guy or the woman who was responsible for this tragedy than for the victims themselves. And I became obsessed by it, and I absolutely wanted to know what was going on. In the meantime, it's not only fascinating, but it's a human tragedy that you are part of. Everybody on this world is responsible of what is going on now, because some of us are very cowards. We don't want to face reality, and it's sometimes so much easier to hide our face, our eyes, and to believe it's only our responsibility because we don't give them enough money, because they have a bad life, because America has been invading Iraq and all that. No, unfortunately, it's not the result of what we are doing. There's nothing we could actually do about this phenomenon. Right now, yeah.
Pierre, I've got to stop us there. Pierre Rehov, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Your work promotes a lot of thought and a lot of discussion. I thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you very much.